We're going to be spending a very fast 1 hour together talking about my favorite subject, branding. And what I'm going to do for you today is show you some things that I think you might find extremely helpful as you go out there and try and differentiate yourself in your business. Before we get started, let's do a little housekeeping. I want to bring your attention to the control panel on the right-hand side of your computer. At the end, if you want to stick around, I'm going to be doing some Q&A with everybody, and there is a section over there where you can type in your questions. Feel free to do so at any time during the presentation. I won't answer them until the very end, so like I said, feel free to stick around. As well, I've got a great solution for you that I'm going to present at the end, and you will find that information in the chat box, but that won't show up again till the end as well. So why am I so excited for our time together? Well, as I mentioned, brand is my absolute favorite subject, and it has been my whole life. But I will tell you that what is really exciting for me right now is that it is such a hot topic right now, and I'm going to share a little bit about that. But it's going to help your business. If you are not naturally good at sales, as most of us aren't, you need some tools to help get a little wind under your kite. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and give you some of those resources right now to get you started. And feel free to either take notes or not take notes. Regardless, you are going to get a replay tomorrow so that you can watch it again. I talk very fast, and we're going to go through a lot of slides. So you may just want to sit back and relax, have a cup of tea, maybe a shot of tequila, whatever, to keep you supercharged and in the moment. So I have spent 25 plus years in this space. And what I know to be true is that the majority of us wonder, what is this thing called brand, this black abyss of brand, and more importantly, why should you care as a business owner? Well, I'm here to tell you that brand is a huge buzzword right now. You hear it all the time, but a lot of people just have real difficulty articulating what in the world it means. Well, I'm going to help demystify brand for you and help explain how you can be extremely profitable if you give a little bit of attention to your brand. So why are you here today? Well, it could be a variety of these reasons. Your audience doesn't get you and you can't figure out why. You know you need branding, but you aren't sure to what extent. You want to understand brand and how it can grow your business. Or you aren't good at sales and you need your brand and marketing to help. So why this webinar? Well, as I mentioned, great branding can make you money. And I'm sure you're saying, how, Kelly, is that even possible? Well, let's look at Apple, for example. If you want an iPhone, you have to get it from Apple. People that buy them typically love them and are willing to pay a hefty price. That's why the price of an iPhone is double the average price of an Android phone, and the gap's been widening. And what about Louboutin shoes? They have red soles, which is an element of this brand's uniqueness. To those in the target audience, the red sole is the thing that is so desirable, and as a result, the price of many styles are over $1,000 a pair. And even though there are many knockoffs, the originals are the ones that fly off the shelves. So bottom line, if your branding gives you sufficient uniqueness and desirability, you can employ a pricing strategy that optimizes profits. What does that mean? You can command higher dollars for something that a service or a product that you provide that somebody else who does the very same thing may only be able to command a lower price for. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to talk about what a brand is and why a strong brand matters. We're also going to discuss how to measure brand value, which is extremely important and something unique to my clients, the thing that I share with them because I want them to really, really understand why they're even bothering with this. We're going to talk about the difference between personal and corporate brand and why branding is such a hot buzzword right now. We're going to discuss the elements of a brand. We're going to touch on brand image, voice, and promise. Those are the three components that actually make up a brand. And last, we're going to talk about brand management. So let's get started. The first thing I always ask people is, who are you? And for today's example, I'm going to use myself. So why me? Why would somebody use me or hire me versus anybody else that does what I do? Well, my interest in branding started when I was 6 years old and I got my first Barbie doll. I didn't like her because of her figure. I liked her because I could transport myself anywhere I wanted in the world. She had a fantastic wardrobe. I was able to ride in a sports car with Ken. I could be a flight attendant and ride on her jet. There were so many magical experiences that I could have in my very own bedroom at age 6. That if I ever got a doll that was not a Barbie, it just really did underwhelm. And so I knew very early on that the Barbie brand meant something. And who can forget the Tonka trucks? My brother had a ton of these, and I always knew which one was a Tonka because when he would run over my Barbie dolls, the Tonka trucks would always cause the most damage. And then when I became an adult, I got into consumer marketing. First with a company called Call McVoy, that was a big ad agency and still is in the Twin Cities. And then remember the inline skate company Rollerblade in the 90s? I know I'm dating myself, but I was in the marketing department of this company. And when we started, this was a cross-training tool for off-season hockey players. And when we got there, we said, you know what, we're going to create a lifestyle sport for women. And the whole brand and the lifestyle sport took off. I was one of a 3-woman team who put an inline skate race on the Indy 500 track. It was something like this. We also put my favorite, Barbie, on skates. And we also were coordinators on the 1992 Super Bowl halftime show. You can see our skaters up front, and they were sprinkled throughout. A lot of people call this product rollerblades, when in fact they aren't. They're inline skates. But rollerblade, the rollerblades, has become synonymous with the product. Think Kleenex. That's not a Kleenex, you guys. It's a facial tissue. And how many people ask for a Sharpie? It's actually a marker. Sharpie is the brand. From there, I found myself as a top salesperson for 2 of the most nationally recognized builders in the United States. And it was during that time that I sold an average of 93 homes per year when most were averaging 35 to 40. I actually won an Oscar for it. There was one year that I sold 144 homes. Can you imagine? I know. And then it was during that time that I became a mom. And I only had one child by design, and his name is Joey. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. When he was in 2nd grade, and this is a picture of him in 2nd grade, I came home from work, and he was crying. And I said, Joey, what's wrong? And he said, you missed this very important thing at school. And I said, honey, why didn't you tell me? And he said, because you're never here. And I will never forget those words. And it was in that moment that I realized that I needed to make some changes. I had one chance with this boy, and I wasn't going to look back and have any bigger regret than that moment. And the very, very next day, I quit my corporate job, and I became an entrepreneur. And it was during that time that I created a children's educational product called Bye Bye Monster, which is a complete bedtime solution for kids who struggle with nighttime fear. And it took off, and I couldn't have been more thrilled because Jenny McCarthy, the actress, got on board, and I was able to help her with her Generation Rescue, which is her foundation for autism. And I was even lucky enough to come up with a white label product for her, which was my organic germ spray that she used as swag when she spoke around the country. And it was during that time that the phone started to ring by startups and entrepreneurs and small business owners who said, hey, I heard what you did with Bye Bye Monster. Can you help me? And Retool Marketing was born. I created an agency so that I could help small business do the things that I was doing for Fortune 500 companies in my corporate career. And I'm happy to report that my son is thriving and in college, and I couldn't be more proud of him and my commitment to him. And I have that picture of my son on my desk as a reminder of how I became an entrepreneur and why I've chosen this path for myself. So what are you known for? Well, in my case, again, I'll use myself as an example, I grow brands. I also created some online courses. And I'm an author of Moology, Uncovering the Secret Cash Cow Hidden in Your Brand, which I just launched in February. I actually wrote 52,000 words in 9 days, but that's another story. So why do I share those very specific examples with you? I do that for a reason. When you are in front of an audience, you need to create your story or share very specific things about yourself so that you're able to paint a picture or set the table for your audience. Things that you need to think about are who are you and what do you do specifically and why does it matter? So who are you? What is your point of view? Everybody has one, right? Well, this really sets the table for your personal brand. Your point of view has to be articulated in such a way that people get you and actually like what you're saying. And what solution do you provide? Certainly everybody wants their problem solved. And do you have that solution for them? And more importantly, how do you make a difference? When I talked about solution, I will tell you that there is a lot of noise and a lot of competition out there, and I'm sure you've been faced with it. What I would say to you is that the consumer is almost more impressed by the experience. You see, they can get their solution in a variety of places. So their assumption is the solution is almost beside the point. But how is it that you make a difference for the person? There's where the magic happens. So I ask you, if I were to pick up the phone right now and call you, could you articulate and answer for me those 3 questions in 2 minutes or less? If not, I would encourage you to take some time and really do some soul searching and write down the script of the answer to those questions and then massage it in such a way that it comes off very naturally when you're asked those questions, or even if you aren't, that you're able to spin up your story in a very specific way. So what is brand? Well, first, brand is not a logo. This is a logo of a good friend and client of mine, Formulaica. Leo Melendez is the CEO and founder of this organization, and he is a recently retired FA-18 fighter pilot, and I will be sharing his story a little bit later with you. But you can see here that what he's done is created a business that is very formulaic to what he learned when he was a pilot, and his logo is reflective of that, both in the name and also the brand mark, which is the stylized element above. It's sort of a illusion, if you will, using negative space to give the illusion of a jet, but also point in the northeast direction, which is perceived as progressive. Second, a brand is not identity. It's not how your logo is used or the words that you use. It isn't the imagery that you use. And finally, it's not a product or the service that you sell. It really isn't. It's a gut feeling about a product, service, organization, or person. It's your gut feeling. So everyone's saying, well, how is that even possible to articulate? Well, it is. Let's take a look at these 4 highly recognized personalities. I bet that you can instinctively tell me which one was the sex symbol of the 50s and which one is a triple threat, being an actor, a singer, and a dancer. I bet you can tell me which one has 7 kids, and I bet you can tell me which one put philanthropic efforts on the map. And how about our superhero friends? I bet you can tell me which one is a rich guy with a sidekick, which one was bitten by a spider, which one knows his way around a bow and arrow, and which one came from another planet and has super strength. Well, how is it that we instinctively know that? It's brand. It's what we've been told about these personas. And we, just by looking at a simple image, can paint the picture in our mind and tell the story to ourselves as though it were playing out in real time. So does brand have a dollar value? Oh, you bet. I know that this example is a little bit dated, but it's really important to be able to illustrate it in this way. This chart was created back in 2001, and I just love it because back then Coca-Cola was the #1 recognized brand on the planet. And one of the things that I wanted to show you was back then, if you look at this chart, the bottom half, look there first, where it says Coke's market cap not including brand value, is $50 billion. So basically what that means is this. If Coca-Cola were to sell in 2001 their secret formula, all of their glass bottles, their labels, their building, their process, all of the physical structure, the physical assets of the business, it would have been worth $50 billion. But because of its brand value, the fact that it is so recognized across the world, it could sell for $120 billion. In other words, brand doubled its value. Isn't that incredible? And by the way, as a side note, Disney bought Marvel, remember all of our superheroes, for $4 billion. They're cartoons, you guys. And because of their brand strength, they were bought for $4 billion. So why is branding so hot? Well, people have too many choices and too little time to make them. And most offerings have similar quality and features. And we tend to base our buying choices on trust, don't we? Well, when I think of brand, this is what's in my mind. All of these missing pieces or moving pieces and parts. I'm looking at somebody's brand very holistically. I need to know what all the research looks like and what the vision and mission is and what the marketing effort is and what is the consumer's perception and how can we mold an identity that's going to garner more attention and how can we take market share away from our competition. There are a lot of elements to a brand and I wanted to give those to you. There's product, the actual thing in which we sell, so it could be a physical product or a service. You need to have differentiation. How come you versus somebody else? What makes you different and special? Those need to be articulated. Your overall vision, both short-term and long-term, those count. Your positioning, again, how you're placed up against the competition, and your target. Who are you going after? Who is the audience? Because remember, in branding, you build to them. Take Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Back in the day when soda was a really big part of all of our lives, I think we've all moved into a little more healthier environment, but back in the day, you were either a Coke or Pepsi drinker. And have you ever gone into a restaurant where you asked for your preferred brand and they didn't have it? They had the opposite one. What did you do? Well, you certainly didn't drink the competition, did you? No. You got something else, whether it was tea or coffee or water, or in my case, a tequila shot, because you cannot believe your favorite restaurant did not have your preferred brand. And then there's name. How did you come up with the name of your business? Was it just arbitrary? Did you just pull it out of the sky? Or did you do some deep research to figure out what would resonate with your ideal audience? And how about your identity, your physical identity, both verbally and visually? What does your logo look like? What about your image library that supports your brand? And what is your promise to your audience? When you show up, what do you guarantee without question that you'll deliver? What's the character of your brand and you as an extension of it or the owner of so? And then also your personality, yours and your brand's personality. Here's my friend Leo again, my fighter pilot pal. His personality is so awesome. He did a very, very dangerous, very sexy, very exciting job. And he's now created an environment as a civilian where he can bring some of that cool vibe down to the rest of us and give us great tools to be successful in a business environment. He really, really focuses on leadership and leadership development. And obviously, it's a perfect extension to his personality. Bravo. And then what emotion does your brand evoke? Are you really cheeky or are you edgy? Are you very serious and stoic? And how about your experience? How long have you been in business? And does that matter to the audience? And how about the quality of your work product? That matters, you guys. And then are you priced right? Are you too high or are you too low? Are you giving away things for free as a loss leader and you trying to upsell them on the back end? And your packaging matters. If you sell something that is going to live in the hands of your audience, you really need to consider the packaging. Because believe it or not, people are visual learners. They buy based on what they see in a lot of cases. Take Bye Bye Monster, for example. I designed the packaging specifically for a tactile experience on the shelf. so that when a parent or a child walked by, they could touch my understuffed, very soft barley monster as an incentive to purchase. How about distribution? How is it that your audience receives their services or their products? And what associations are you attached to? And what are the credentials of your business or you as the individual? Do you have letters after your name? Do you have degrees? And what kind of messaging are you sending out to your audience? Let's take the dairy farmers, for example. The dairy industry has been in a world of hurt for years because milk is being touted as something not very good to drink. Well, all the dairy industry said, we got to do something about that. So they created the Got Milk campaign. And what they did is they solicited all of the A-listers out there and the celebrities and did this really, really fun campaign, which everybody loves. And you'll notice that each celebrity has their own milk story, which is unique to their brand. This campaign was brilliant, and if you've not seen it or haven't researched it, I would encourage you to do it because you can glean some great insight from the big brands who have paved the way for us. And in this case, Got Milk is a perfect example. One of the questions that I'm asked a lot is which way to go, personal versus corporate brand. This seems to be like the biggest question mark in everybody's mind. Do I brand me as the person, or do I brand a business name? And my answer is always, it depends. Some of the questions I ask are, do you want the business to survive you upon your death? Do you want this to be a personality brand? Are you the face of the brand? Are you alone in this work that you do? Or do you have employees? Is there a team backing you? Let me give you an example of my friend and client, Deb, who specializes in culinary medicine. She needed both because that's an answer as well. The reason she needed both is because she started out feeding people, and her corporate brand is Savor Culinary Services. And remember, corporate brand is a they game. You brand to the audience, color palette, imagery, business name, everything that resonates with the audience, not personal preference, as a lot of people make the mistake doing, is they brand their personal preference, and that's not the case here. It's a they game. And so she created this business, very, very successful business, branding the corporation. And you'll notice in all of her language and her imagery, it's all tailored to the audience. Pressed for time, tired of eating out, want to know what's in your food, want to spend more time with your family, struggling to cook for a special needs diet, sick of wasting food that you buy but then you don't cook. Brilliant. All of the messaging aligns with the pain points of the audience. But then what happened is her phone started to ring by other chefs who said, Deb, you run a very, very successful business. We know food just like you, but how did you become successful? And so what she needed to do was create a personality brand because she's being asked to speak on a national stage. She is mentoring other chefs in her space. And so we created a personal brand for her, Chef Deb, which is a we game. So when you brand personal brand, it is all about you, what resonates with you, how you feel about things, what inspires you, and then your audience is drawn to it. And so you'll notice that we lead with her story, which is all about how it is that she arrived in this moment, in this space, and why she is qualified to deliver on the things that she claims. So what is a brand? Again, it's a combination of things, but I can boil it down to three: image, voice, and promise. So let's start with image. This is my friend and client, Travinia. These pictures were taken 30 days apart from one another. Can you believe it? I got the phone call from her and she was in tears, saying that she had hired a brand strategist and a branding company to recreate her brand, and this was just a piece of the disaster that I saw. And she was devastated, and she said, Kelly, what do I do? So I flew her out to Minneapolis and we completely redid all of her branding. And you'll notice that it's such a huge night and day difference. how Travinia looks in real life is the picture on the left. And so what I would share with you is make sure that the people you're working with are qualified, number one, and number two, can really reflect your brand and shine the brightest light on it possible. Because anything less, in my opinion, is a waste of money. One of the things that we did was change out her logo. The one on top is her previous one, and the one on the bottom is her new one. She wanted a fresh approach. She wanted to up-level her business. She really wanted to go after an edgy demographic, and I think we achieved that there. And this is my friend Christine. She is a ghostwriter to celebrities, and a very good one at that. And I got a phone call from her. Now, let me just start by saying Christine has known me a lot of years, and so she has heard me preach the good word on brand. But we sometimes get preoccupied with our day-to-day grind and serving our clients that we don't really have time to focus on our own brand needs. Well, I got a phone call, a 911 actually, and this is what happened. Her website is on the left, and she has A-list clients. So these are very, very big deal people. And they were referring their A-list big deal friends to Christine. And when they would arrive at her website, there was this huge disconnect. The A-lister clients were just speaking wonderful things about Christine and her abilities and her creativity and her innovation. But when they got to the website, it underwhelmed. And so they all bounced and went back to their A-lister friends and said, we don't see what you're seeing. And so Christine had to pivot quickly. And we shut down the site and we put up this temporary landing page on the right just to buy us a little bit of time so that we could rebrand her. And it's made all the difference. My friend Nicole is on the bottom right. She is a wealth manager in Minneapolis, and a very good one at that. She has two brands as well. She has her corporate brand, and she's needing a personal brand because she is getting big stage opportunities as well, and she's been featured in a lot of magazines as well as on TV. And so what we needed to do is create, she could no longer just have standard typography logo that was sort of hodgepodge together. She really needed something that packed a punch and made a statement. Meristem is another wealth management company, but a big, big organization, and I recently did a rebrand, and you can see the before and after again. What's unique to notice about this is that in the old version, they were doing a really, really great job because they were speaking to the patriarch of their clientele, which is the people who acquired the wealth. So they're an older generation. Well, the reason they called me is because that patriarch is now transferring the wealth down to their Gen X child as well as their millennial grandchild. And they needed a brand and messaging that would speak cross-generationally. And so what we needed to do was freshen some things up so that they would be able to cast that wider net and make that difference. And you'll notice that the imagery ties in. So now this all of a sudden becomes their image library, or a section of it, I should say. But you can see how all the pieces and parts are starting to work together. And I just love this picture. I have to throw this in all the time. Again, sort of a before and after. My son, Joey, who's in the middle, is with his two pals, and when they were in high school, on the last day of school, they always went to the hair cutting salon and always cut their hair off. And as fate would have it, I was always the driver. And so when we would go, instinctively the stylist would make the other two boys call their mom and get confirmation or permission for her to cut all their hair off. Because even she knew how important visually these kids' personal brands were, that the perception of them might be a little bit different with no hair, as you can see is the case. And then brand voice. What is your verbal and non-verbal, which is your communication skills and attitude, saying about your brand? Well, what is that? Well, it's how you show up on your social networks. It's your email and thank you. Do you start your emails with, hey, so-and-so, how are you? Do you handwrite your thank yous, or is it all digital? How about your personal greeting? Is your handshake very firm? Do you make eye contact? And how about your email signature? Do you even have one? And what does it say about you and your brand? And how about your introduction? When someone says, hey, what do you do? What is your answer? Which also translates into your elevator pitch, right? And is your elevator pitch different based on who you're standing in front of? And what kind of tone do you use when you're speaking to people? And what kind of dialogue and vernacular do you use? Do you say a lot? Do you clear your throat? Do you swear? How many of you have seen the Taco Bell McDonald wars? This is a great example of verbal and nonverbal communication that didn't exactly go very well, in my opinion. You see, these two behemoth brands are always fighting for market share. And Taco Bell, obviously being the underdog, is always gunning for McDonald's. And they put together a commercial campaign where they got a whole bunch of men around the country who actually had the name Ronald McDonald, put them in a room, and had each one of them say, I prefer Taco Bell breakfast. What do you think McDonald's did? Well, instead of doing nothing, they actually retaliated. And what they did is they went on a smear campaign. And they created this image which puts Taco Bell in a very submissive position. And if you look at the signature, or the subject line, it says, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. You know, they kind of raised their middle finger to Taco Bell, didn't they? Well, what you'll notice is this thing, when I printed it back in, I don't even remember when, March, they had over 2,000 shares of these two huge brands duking it out for the whole world to see. Brand promise. Do you know what your brand promise is? Well, brand promise is going to show up in a variety of ways. Your behavior, right? Your personality traits, your skill and your level of skill, your engagement with others, the actual work product that you offer, the follow-through, how you conduct yourself or how often you have meetings, your overall energy level at any given time, your reputation, and your character. All of those combined are your promise to others. So where does an example? Well, Geico is the perfect example. Because in 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. How many of you have heard that? How many of you even use Geico? The point is they're making a promise that if you give them a chance, they're going to try and save you at least 15%. And how about political? You know, this is really a dicey subject, but definitely one that resonates. We either go right or left or in between. But the point is this. These candidates make promises to us, and we vote based on those promises. Sometimes they deliver and sometimes they don't. But the point is we're making our buying decision based on their promise. So what is the point of all of that? Well, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And you actually get to influence that, believe it or not. And how do you do that? By managing your brand. Let me show you a couple of before and after. This is my friend and client, Susie Riley. She is one of the top producing real estate agents in the San Francisco Bay Area. She was born and raised there, so nobody knows that market better than her, and she is killing it. But she recognized that there were a lot of millennials coming in and beginning agents who really had a lot of stamina and steam, and they really wanted to come in and dominate the marketplace. So she knew that she needed to do something aggressive to hold on to her market share. You'll notice that, as a lot of realtors do, they typically just use a template that's provided by the broker, which is the one on the left, but it doesn't paint a picture. There's nothing riveting or interesting, in my opinion, about anything on the left, including the picture. And so what I did is I completely rebranded her. We went from a personal brand to a corporate brand, the Riley Group, and we could easily do that because she had staff. We also did a custom photo shoot for her. We also changed colors that fit the audience. This is a color palette for San Francisco, as you can tell. And we really, really up-leveled how she's showing up virtually. So her website obviously is her virtual storefront, one of the most important pieces of your brand. And she's thriving. This is my friend and client, Dan Griffin. He works in the addiction space and he helps men with recovery. He was a personal brand and we moved him over to a corporate brand because he was getting so much traction in this space. And we really needed to kind of cover two bases here. him as a personal brand, but also his corporate brand. We needed to merge it all into one site so that everything was really, really clearly defined. All of the ways that he helps people in recovery, we needed it to be really, really turnkey for those folks to use. And then here's the before and after for my Meristem client. Remember, on the left we were speaking to the patriarch, and on the right, 3 generations. And then lastly, my friend and client, Sean Marie. The website on the left, interestingly enough, was an attempt to merge 2 businesses. The We Flaunt, which is on the right, is a custom accessory, apparel and accessory business. And what she was trying to do was ride 2 horses with 1 ass. And unfortunately what happens is we want to make sure that we're sharing all of our information as much as we can share with people. And so what we'll do is we'll layer upon layer to give everyone as much information as we can, but then what happens is it becomes vegetable soup. It's very difficult to know what she's selling, where she wants us to click. None of it made any sense. So I said, you know what, Sean, you've got to separate your brands. And so we did that. And the one on the right is pure to that accessory brand. So how do you manage all of this? How do you keep it all straight? How do you even know where to start, what to do? Well, I'm going to give you all the answers right now. You need a brand plan. And the very, very first thing that I'm going to suggest that you do is you audit your own brand. And what I mean by that is I want you to look at all your pieces and parts. I want you to look at your website and your collateral and your colors and your business name and every single thing associated with your business. And I want you to really, really look at it and make some decisions about, does it really speak to what you sell and to whom you sell it to? One of the things that you really want to do is arm yourself for success. You need to do planning, research, and analysis. So what does that mean? Well, guys, you need a business plan. I know there are a lot of gurus out there. There's even books written on this that say you do not need a plan, but I am telling you that this is the foundation of your business. If you have nothing to measure your success against, how do you even know what you're doing? You're just throwing spaghetti at the wall hoping some stick, and pretty soon you're out of money or other kinds of resources, just plain exhausted. But the point is, you need a basis, something to measure against, and that shows up in a business plan, even if it's just 1 page. The other thing you need to do is some research and analysis, and I know that this is really grossy pants. Nobody, not one of my clients wants to do this. They kick, scream, and fight me on this all the time. They even try and skip it, and I'm just telling you, if you do, you are sitting on a 2-legged stool. Research your competition. Research the market, meaning what the market will bear, and your buyer. And then you want to analyze that data, because what are you building to? How do you know if the person who's competing against you is doing it better than, worse than? You have no idea what the opportunity is against them. And are you even speaking the language of your audience, or is it Greek to them? And when you're analyzing, one of the easiest ways to put it in writing so you can see it visually is what I call a SWOT analysis, which identifies your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And then what you need to do is you need to build a strategy. So you have all of this amazing data and information, and now you are armed to go out there and build something that is going to sell. And so what you're going to need in that build is your brand identity, a marketing plan, another plan, and a sales plan. Now, brand identity, remember, is a whole lot of things. It's the brand essence. It's all the attributes. It's your identity, how you look, sound, and feel, and then the positioning, how you measure up against your competition. And then you need a marketing plan. Why do you need this? Well, you've got this mini business plan, or a very large one. How are you going to reach the goals on that plan? How are you going to reach them? Right here. Your marketing plan is the thing that is going to give you the directions in order to achieve the business plan goals. And to piggyback on that, you need a sales plan. You need to get out a calculator and figure out how much do you need to sell and how is that going to happen. And then you want to get the word out. Once everything is built, you've got to tell people about it. Otherwise, how in the world are they going to know that you exist? And how do you do that? Through web strategy, email marketing campaigns, networking, and a communication strategy, and a strong one at that, you guys. So website. You need to audit your existing site. Believe it or not, we as consumers read in an F pattern on web and a Z pattern in print. Did you know that? That's why oftentimes all of the most important real estate is above the fold on the website. Logo is on the top, your navigation bar is on the top, and a very, very profound image with a power statement is on the top half of the page. There's a reason for that. There is science behind the user experience as they step in and manipulate your website. Images count, your copy counts, where things are placed on the page count. And if you haven't already, you might want to consider putting a heat map on your website to try and figure out where people are clicking. And email marketing. What are you doing to nurture the people who have you've gotten their attention and they're like, all right, tell me more. And don't forget about networking. I know everybody does it, but how well are you doing it? What are you doing specifically to get your name and your business out there that it's sticky? And not only are you talking about it, but everybody else is talking about it too. Are you exhausted? How many of you have run out of ink in your pen? Or are you all of a sudden supercharged and now you absolutely love brands as much as me, right? Well, if you're overwhelmed, I have a solution for you. I happen to know that there are 4 core areas where entrepreneurs struggle because I've been doing this a long time, and I know for a fact that part of the inability to take action is just simply because you're overwhelmed, or you don't know what you don't know, or maybe you've gotten the information, but you're thinking, I don't even know the pieces and the parts and what to do first, second, third, and fourth. Well, I have created an online program series that will literally handhold you through every single step of everything that I just shared with you. If you go to my website, kellylucente.com, and you go to the goods page, you will see all of those programs listed individually on there. And what I want to do is I want to give it to you. I want to give you the entire series delivered right now to your inbox. How am I going to do that? Well, if on my website you were to buy them individually, they're $297 a piece. But because you were kind enough to join me on this webinar and you're interested in taking your business to the next level, I want to give it to you for a fraction of the price. But first I want to tell you what you're going to get. You are going to get my 4 workbooks, and these, you guys, are each workbook is a mini college course. You're going to get the Brand Building Primer Workbook Series, which includes Just Business, Brand Basics, Personal versus Corporate Brand, and all things design. In Just Business, we're going to spend some time in the heady space of planning. Remember all that yucky stuff? The SWOT analysis, research, so we can set the foundation for your branding efforts. And the way that I've created these programs is they are very C-Dick run. They literally step you through where to fill in the blanks. And the next one is Brand Basics, where we'll discover the important elements of building a brand and clarifying your brand message. Like, who are you? What value do you bring? We need to get that all figured out, and this program will do that for you. And then Personal versus Corporate Brand. We're going to explore both options to help make an informed decision about which way to go. And then All Things Design. You get a backstage look at the creative process and the varying components of great design. Well, why should you care? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to craft a creative brief. You need to know the importance of color, how logos are designed, and the steps that it takes. Because if you go out and hire independent contractors, you need to come from a place of knowledge just enough so that you can hire the right independent contractors to help you. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, oh, I just hired my cousin Sue. Well, here's the thing. Unless you're a graphic designer, you're not a graphic designer, and neither is your cousin Sue. And believe it or not, that is an entire chapter with that exact title in my book, Moology, because it is such an important piece to your business. Because remember, you guys, most of us are visual learners. So your visuals need to be spot on. So how do these workbooks work? Well, they're done on your time, which is fantastic. You get to work at your own pace. And these programs are designed to allow you to work where you want, when you want, and on your own terms, because in my opinion, time is precious. And I don't want to be told when I'm supposed to show up and do any particular thing. And they're self-directed. So they're designed just like a college course, only way more fun. I've given you lots of images to support the lesson and real-life examples to help with the understanding. And it is chock full of activities to help you uncover the answers related to your brand. Many are in the form of charts and fill in the blanks, but all are thoroughly explained, so it's super easy. And then lastly, the most important thing is implementation. This program was designed to assist you in the very thing that tends to hold people back, which is implementation. I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through every step so you realize the results. Now remember, each program is $297, so the total is $1,188. But I'm not going to charge you that. And not only am I not going to charge you that, I'm going to give you some pretty cool things. First, I'm going to give you the Retool Marketing Brand Audit Checklist. Remember how I told you I wanted you to audit your brand? Right. Well, where do you start? Right here. Your brand audit checklist is split into 3 parts, so you can easily check them off the list after you've reviewed them and you figure out what needs to change or stay the same. And the second thing I'm going to give you is the Retool Marketing Branding Process Infographic. This is the document that I use every time I work with a corporate client. We step by step go through each piece and part of building a brand. You will have this at your fingertips. And I want you to join me on my Facebook group page called Brandosophy. This is the home of some pretty exciting stuff. I'm telling you that there are a lot of people who say to me, I wish I'd have known that. How did you find that? Look, you are busy and you just stay focused on your craft and your gift. Let me do all the research on what's trending in brand. Let me bring to you in one place all of the resources that you need to be able to figure out all the things that are trending about branding and positioning and creative for you. Let me do the work. And I'm going to give you something that I really love called sprinkles. These are 24 downloadable sentiments special for you. These are only available now. They are not available on my website or anywhere else. They're exclusive to you. And lastly, I've got a fast-acting bonus. There is a 5th program that is 57 pages long called Events and Trade Shows. And I can't tell you how many people that I know are either an attendee of an event or an exhibitor and have booth or table space or put on an event themselves. And what they forget is pre and post effort. What they focus on is the during, what I'm going to do while I'm there. But I'm telling you, you can make a ton of money if you look at what it is that I'm suggesting for pre, during, post in all 3 categories. And I literally list it all here for you. That 5th program on my website is an additional $297. So that would be a total, if you got all 5, $1,485. You guys, I'm going to sell them all to you, all 5 with all the bonuses for $297. That is the cost of 1 program. So let's recap. What are you going to get for $297? You're going to get the 4-part Brand Building Primer Workbook series. You're going to get the Retool Marketing Brand Audit Checklist. You're going to get the Branding Process Infographic and become a member of the Brandosophy Facebook page. You're going to get 24 inspirational quotes, and you're going to get the bonus program of events and trade shows. But that's not it. For the first 10 people who sign up, and I'm going to know who they are because they're going to hit my inbox as a ping, I'm going to give you 1 hour with me. 1 hour, which is a $500 value. I will spend one-on-one with you, and we can talk about whatever you want. We can talk about your brand audit, your website, your programs that you purchased, your personal versus corporate brand issue, any single thing. And let me tell you, I talk fast, so we're going to cover a lot of ground in that 1 hour. And if you want that, you need to be the first 10 people to show up. And by the way, to order is in the chat box. So what are some of the people who have had this 1 hour with me? What have they said? Well, Sarah from California said, I got more out of 1 hour together than I did in the 12 months I worked with a coach. That's pretty shocking. And Sam from Texas said, I can't believe how many times I said, holy crap, I had no idea during our 1 hour call. And Chris from New York said, how do I get another hour? Seriously. So if you want all of these things the 5 programs, all of the bonuses, and 1 hour with me, go to the chat box right now, click the link, and you'll be sent to a sales page where you can purchase the program for $297. That's it. So before we wrap, I know we've got about 10 minutes left. I would love to answer your questions if you have any. So feel free to put your questions over in the question box on the right-hand side, and I will do what I can to address those for you. So one of the first questions we have here is, how does a person figure out their brand voice? That's a great question. Brand voice is something that is decided as we are building the identity piece, the visual piece. So when we do our positioning work up front, remember that research stuff and figuring out who we are and what we stand for, what's going to bubble to the surface is a couple of commonality things. And it's going to be pretty easy for us to figure out what tone of voice we're going to use. You'll notice if you go to my 2 sites, the retoolmarketing.com site, very stoic, very agency site, very Darth Vader. When I work with my corporate clients, all they're interested in is the bottom line and the result. They don't want any touchy-feely. It is very, very rigid. And so it's very rigid speak. But on the kellylucente.com site, you'll see that there's pink and pearls, and there's superlatives, and there's more conversation and hand-holding, and very fun, warm, inviting content. That's by design because that audience requires it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a voice that speaks to the audience. So if you can figure out who your ideal client is and give them a persona, you can come up with your voice. The next question we have is, are these live online training programs? Currently they are not live. You actually get the workbook downloaded right to your email as soon as you purchase. And then if you're one of the first 10 people, what we could do is I could coach you through them when we're on our call together. The other thing that I'm kicking around is possibly adding on a tutorial. So that will be audio tutorial that will probably happen down the road, but not right now. It's a work at your own pace workbook as it stands. Well, once again, this is what you get if you'd like to join us. Feel free to reach out. My contact information is on either one of my sites. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. I've appreciated our time together. I hope you found value in it. I know I did. Take care and good luck to all of you.